Okay, so let's go over any homework questions on Ross chapter 9. I think we might have tackled a few of these. That's okay. Don't mind working through some of this stuff. Again, drilling down on it a little bit more and going over the translation exercises also. So let's see. Are there any questions on 9.7? Section A, this is 85, page 85 of Ross. I've got the Ross chapter here in case we need to make reference to it also. So, I only assigned you 1 through 6, but I'm also happy to look at anything else that is on here if any of you were working extra problems and whatnot. So, questions, comments, concerns?
Dr. Marshall?
Yes.
On section A, number 5,
Mm-hmm.
after I corrected it, I understand what I did, but it's helpful to hear you walk through it. So.
Okay, good. Let's take a look at number 4, you said? 5. Okay, great. This involves 2 issues that are covered in the chapter. One of them is the issue of the adjective in terms of whether it's a predicate adjective or attributive or substantival use. And then the other one has to do with this preposition men right here. Okay? That is the preposition men. It's just been obscured in 2 ways. Right? The men will look like this with the dagesh forte because the noon does what? What's that process called when it becomes a double of the consonant that it follows? Assimilation. And then if I have a guttural where that doubling dot's going to happen, then it doesn't take the dagesh forte, but I get compensatory lengthening of the Keurig and it becomes the seri. Okay? So, but that is the preposition men. And I say that to say this. Sometimes when people see the mem, they know that there's this word hanavi. They know that's the prophet. And they see this mem on the front. Sometimes my students will call this the preposition mem. Like, we have a preposition lamed and a preposition kaf. Is there such a thing as a preposition mem? No. There's no word mem that means from, okay? What you're seeing is the preposition men, and when I'm asking you to identify things, I want you to use the whole word, for the preposition. The men can be written separated from the noun, and so the preposition is men. It's just that men has these various ways of showing up because of these phonetic processes. So that is the men preposition. How have we been translating the men preposition, by the way?
From.
Yeah, usually it's from, right? So we'll keep that translation for the time being as we look at number 5. All right? We'll review what it says in Hebrew here, and then we'll go back and look at what we were asked to do. Gadol Adonai is one of these 2 words, if you just look at those 2, forget about the mehanavi right now, are one of these an adjective? Gadol is an adjective, yes. And when you have an adjective, then you need to be thinking about the question, which of the 3 adjective uses am I seeing? What is Gadol next to? This is the divine name, Adonai. And is that an adjective or a noun? It's a noun. Yeah, okay, so what did we learn about attributive adjectives? There are requirements. Number 1, there's a position requirement or a placement requirement. And number 2, it has to agree with the noun that we think it's modifying in 3 ways: gender, number, and definiteness. The placement requirement is that attributive adjectives go where? After the noun. So, and they tell you what kind of noun you're talking about as a unit. The blank noun, or a blank kind of noun. Is this fulfilling the attributive adjective requirements? Gadol. No, not at all. It's in the wrong place. It's before, not after the noun, right? And what we will learn is that proper nouns are definite, but gadol is not. Anything that has a proper name, you know, like a person's name or a place name, that kind of a designation always renders a noun definite in our minds. I could talk about a bridge. Okay, that's the common noun. That could refer to any bridge. But if I'm talking about the Golden Gate Bridge, well, there's only one of those, right? That causes me to call up a particular bridge. So proper nouns are definite by nature. And so I have, you know, Yahweh would be masculine singular, and Gadol is also masculine singular, but Yahweh is definite, and Gadol is not, right? Not definite. So which use of the adjective must this be? It's a predicate use. And that means it's telling me what the noun is, right? Predicate adjectives always occur in copular constructions where we're making an assertion about what a subject noun is. So how would I translate Gadol Adonai if that's all I had here?
Yahweh is great.
Yahweh is great. Now let's translate the men preposition. Yahweh is great, men, using our typical translation.
From
Yahweh is great from Hanavi, the prophet. Now does that make any sense? It does? Yahweh is great from the prophet? Yeah, that doesn't make very good sense at all, does it? So, my next option then is to say, well, you know, aside from these uses of men where they indicate separation from, departure from, away from, we need to think of the comparative use. Is this men being used for comparison? So, what's my sort of working English gloss for comparative men? Compared to. So, Gadol Adonai is what again? Gadol Adonai. Translate that.
God is great. God is great.
Yahweh is great. May Hanavi compared to the prophet. So the quality being compared is great. What are we comparing him to? The prophet in that regard. So what's my standard English way of now translating this? Yeah, greater than the prophet. Yahweh is greater than. So my my predicate adjective here, gadol, when it's comparative, greater, doesn't change the form of the adjective like we do in English. We add little particles to the adjective to make it, you know, indicate comparison. Greater, in Hebrew, we have to add the preposition men to something else. That is the point of comparison. Okay? So, or the standard against which we're comparing. So, back to what we were given as at the beginning. Our English gloss that we started with was the Lord, which is the divine name, is greater than the prophet. So, working backwards, I'd have to know how to write Lord. And instead of thinking of the Hebrew word for greater, I just have to think of the adjective great, and then I have to add the men to the prophet here, you see. All right, does that help?
Absolutely, thank you.
You're welcome. Let's do this. Let's do this. So everybody sees number 5, Gadol Adonai Me Hanavi, is Yahweh is greater than the prophet. You have some new adjectives on page 84 in your vocab list. Let's just work over some of those adjectives so you can get used to them and get used to this kind of a construction. All right? So, if I told you to say in Hebrew, Yahweh is greater than the prophet, you would say it. Gadol Adonai Me Hanavi. Good. Why don't you say Yahweh is better than the prophet? How would you say that? Yahweh is better than the prophet. Only one thing changes. Tov Adonai Me Hanavi. Say that with me. Tov Adonai Me Hanavi. That's it. So that's Yahweh is better than the prophet. You say Yahweh is more excellent than the prophet. Look at your vocab list on 84. Yahweh is more excellent than the prophet. Go ahead, you do it. Very good. You have to use the form Yafeh because it's what gender and number? Masculine singular. And that's the form we're using for Yahweh here. Right? Yahweh is masculine singular. So how would I say Yahweh is more precious than the prophet? Go ahead. That's right. Yakar Adonai Me Hanavi. What about Yahweh is more upright than the prophet? It'll sound almost the same. Good. Yep. And I want you to say this and go all the way through the end of the sentence, because what you need to get used to is the adjective then conjoined with that min prepositional phrase for indicating comparison. So it would be Yashar Adonai Me Hanavi. That's great. All right. So how about this? Yahweh is more difficult than the prophet. You think the prophet's difficult to deal with. Yahweh is more difficult than the prophet. How would you say that? That's right. Kashe Adonai Me Hanavi. And now we're going to flip things around, because I can't really use Rasha in the exact same way, can I? We might not make it through this hour. But let's say the prophet is more wicked than Yahweh. Because that's true. That's right. Good. So Rasha Hanavi, wicked is the prophet, Me Adonai, compared to Yahweh. Right? And of course there's no comparison. So, all right, there you go. You see how that works? Now, all I need to do is change my gender and number of my predicate adjective to match whatever the subject's gender and number is, and I can make comparisons all day long. For example, let's just take Ha-na-vi-a. What is that? Ha-na-vi-a. The prophetess, okay? Now, over here, I've used the adjective gadol, and it's been in front. But could I put the predicate adjective after the subject now? Is that possible?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Perfectly okay. What would ha-naviya gadolah mean? Does that mean The good prophetess?
The prophetess.
The prophetess is good.
Ah, I'm hearing two different things. Is this attributive or predicate use here? All right.
The prophetess is good.
Okay. Yeah, I gotta add the assertion is. How do you know that's a predicate use and not a attributive use? Because this does follow the noun, doesn't it?
It's not definite. The double is not definite.
That's right. I am lacking this crucial feature. Ha, guttural, right? They're both feminine singular, but one is articular and one is not. There's no article in front of guttural. So that tells me this is a predicate use. All right. And then let's compare the prophetess to Moshe. Who's that? Moses. Okay, so repeat after me. Hanaviyah Gedolah Mimoshe. Dagesh Porte there. Okay. I didn't hear all of that, but I'm going to trust that the Lord heard it, that you said it. Okay, so Hanaviyah Gedolah Mimoshe. What does that mean? Yes, the prophetess is greater than Moses. Now, all of this is not true, of course, because Moses is the greatest prophet until someone else comes along, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Joshua. No, I'm just kidding. Well, actually, yeah, Joshua, but the other Joshua, right? Jesus Joshua. All right. So let's say the prophetess is better than Moses. How would you say that? Hanaviyah. Hanaviyah. Yes, I got to use what form of tov?
Feminine singular.
Feminine singular. Tovah. So just replace tovah with for good Allah. So Hanaviyah Tovah Mimoshe. Now you say this. The prophetess is more beautiful than Moses. You know, he was, as the book of Exodus says, he was a fine child, right? He was fine. But the prophetess is more beautiful than Moses. Yafa. Mimoshe. Good. So remember, the masculine singular form is yafe, but you have to chop off the a and add your endings, ah, imanot to yaf, right? So it's yafa, because we're dealing with a woman here. Yafa. So Hanaviyah Yafa Mimoshe. The prophetess is more beautiful than Moses. Let's see. What about?
Dr. Marshall,
Yes,
can you do number 14?
we can do it. Here, let me just go through a couple more examples in number of these this little drill I'm doing, and then we'll get a number 14. Okay, so tell me, how would you say the prophetess is more costly than Moses? The prophetess is more costly than Moses. Okay, well let's practice this other word order, because I don't want you to get the impression that the predicate adjective always has to go first. So start with Hanaviyah. Hanaviyah, Yakara, Mimoshe. All right, good. Now here is an important thing about Yakara. The adjective is yakar for masculine singular. What's going to happen when I add the feminine singular comets hey here? Will I keep the comets here under the kof?
Yes.
I will. It's open and pre-tonic once I add that vowel here to the resh. Ra is my tonic syllable. Ka is my pre-tonic syllable. It's still open. But ya is going to be open and propertonic. Is that going to retain the comments here?
No.
No. What does Hebrew do with that? It will reduce. Yes, it reduces. Open propertonic reduction, because this is what nouns and adjectives do. And it becomes yukara. Yukara. So don't say yakara, but yukara. Yukara. And that means that if we want to say that the prophetess is more upright than Moses, using yashar, you're going to have to undergo that vowel reduction as well, yashar. So how would you say the prophetess is more upright than Moses? Hanaviyah. Yeah, hanaviyah, and then it's yashara, right? Not yashara, but yashara. Yashara. All right, good. And then last, of course, we have to say that the prophetess is more difficult than Moses. More difficult. So, how would we say that? Hanaviyah. Hanaviyah. Open your mouth. Hanaviyah. Kasha. That's right. Kashe becomes kasha. Kasha. Hanaviyah kasha. So we have this echo, right, of the gender of the noun with the gender of the adjective most of the time, except for when it doesn't. No, except for when the masculine noun looks feminine or the feminine noun looks masculine, then it's going to look like this gender mismatch. But in reality, they'll both still be feminine, and they'll both still be masculine. It's just that it won't look like the typical masculine noun or feminine noun we want. But remember the adjective. The adjective is always true to its gender. And so, just to point that out, look at number 4. Look at number 4 here in section A. Do you see how we have Yafa in number 4? What gender and number is Yafa?
Feminine singular.
Yafa is feminine singular. What gender and number is Haaretz? Are you sure it's feminine singular? There's no comments hey at the end of it. It is a feminine noun, that's right. And look, Haggadah is what gender and number? Feminine singular. So this noun, and this is the only noun in my sentence, this noun looks very masculine, but it is actually feminine, as indicated by the fact that I have 2 different adjectives that agree with it. So even where the noun is tricksy, the adjective is always true. If you know your Lord of the Rings, this is what Gollum says about Master Frodo, right? Master's tricksy. Master deceives us. He's tricksy. No, Master is true. Okay, so I'm going to start vomiting and coughing up here in a second. Yeah, but here, before I filled your question, just remember then, I have feminine singular, but it looks masculine. The adjective is true to the gender. Is Haggadah attributive or predicate use of the adjective here? It is attributive. So one of the features of attributive adjectives is, of course, placement. It goes where? After the noun. But it's also going to agree in gender, number, and definiteness. And so here's one of the things that you're going to often be looking for. Most of the times, our nouns are going to be articular when they have attributive adjectives. And you're going to see the article on the noun followed by the article on the adjective. I like to refer to this as the ha-ha rule. Ha-ha. Because when you have the article, it almost always sounds like ha. No matter how you spell it, it's almost always a ha sound. So ha'aretz haggadah. Ha-ha, the joke's on you, right? The ha-ha means almost every time that you're dealing with an attributive adjective, and you're going to have to translate it as the whatever kind of noun, and then adjective, noun, that kind of noun, right? So the big or great land. Over here with yafa, this is feminine singular, but it's not after the noun, so that's strike one against being an attributive adjective. And even though I've got the article ha on aretz, there is no article here, so there's no ha-ha rule, is there? It's not following the ha-ha rule. So I have to take this one as the predicate use. And so when you have ha-ha and you have an attributive adjective, you need to translate the noun and its attributive adjective together as a unit before you move on to other parts of your sentence. Ha'aretz ha'gedolah is translated how? The great land, and then I can go on to say is yafa, is what?
Beautiful.
Is beautiful. I would not want to translate this as the beautiful great land or any such thing, because yafa is a predicate adjective. I need to insert some copula between my subject and my predicate adjective. Okay, so ha'aretz ha'gedolah is the subject. All right. Now, there was this request, some glutton for punishment asked to do number 14. I don't know who that was, but we will oblige. Let me just clear out this material here. Okay, so I'm going to have to go find some space here. So number 14. The English sentence is, a wicked son is more difficult than a righteous son. Ne'er was a truer word spoken. All right. Well, we need to know how to say a wicked son. We need to know how to say difficult. And we need to know how to say righteous son. So first of all, son occurs twice. What's the word for son?
Bane.
Yeah, so bane. Very good. So we'll go ahead and just jot down bane here. Now, what I want to do is I can find the word difficult, and it says that this wicked son is difficult. In fact, more difficult. So what use of the adjective difficult is this? Attributive or predicate or substantival? Predicate, exactly, because difficult is what I'm saying the subject is, right? And that's what predicate adjectives do. They indicate what the subject noun is. So I need to make sure that whatever I do, my form of difficult does not have the article on it. Because predicate adjectives never have the article on them. All right? Now, could the predicate adjective come first before the subject noun? Yes. Could it come after the subject noun?
Yes.
Yes. We practiced it both ways today, didn't we? Let's go ahead and retain the order and put it after the subject noun as we have it here. So a wicked son is more difficult. In order to say this, what we want to say first of all is a wicked son is difficult, and then we use the preposition men. So how would I say a wicked son? Well, what's the word for wicked? Rasha. Do I want to put wicked before or after the word bane? Is it an attributive or a predicate adjective? It's attributive, right. So it has to go where? After. Yeah, so Rasha is the masculine singular form of wicked. Is bane masculine singular?
Yes.
Good. So do I have to tweak Rasha and change any endings here? Nope, I don't. Do I need to add the article to bane or Rasha here? They have to agree in definiteness. Do I have to make them both definite, or can I leave them both anarthrous? Yeah, leave them anarthrous because it's a wicked son, right? It's not the wicked son. So it's going to be bane Rasha, a wicked son. Now I want to say what that wicked son is, and what's the word for difficult? Yeah. The masculine singular form of difficult is kashe. do I need to add an article to this, or do I need to change an ending to this? No, I don't. Okay, so it's Bain Rasha, Cache. Here's my noun, attributive adjective, predicate adjective. Okay, remember I said when you have a noun with an attributive adjective, you need to read those together as a unit, right? Don't try to stick Cache in with Rasha and try to say something like a wicked, harsh son. Okay? This is a wicked son as a unit together, that read together, a wicked son is Cache, is difficult, but I want to say more difficult. Can I just say more Cache? Wouldn't it be nice if we could just add a prefix? More Cache? No, I can't do that. I have to use the preposition what? I have to use the preposition men. So I'm going to add men. I could do it the sissy way for starters, right? Men. And then I have a righteous son. Well, that's going to be almost identical to the way we've written a wicked son. But I just have to change the adjective, right? What kind of son is this? A righteous son? Remember how to say righteous? Sadiq. Does Sadiq go before or after Bain? If it's a righteous son, it's got to go after because it's attributive. So Bain, Sadiq. In case you've forgotten how to spell Sadiq, it does have a dagesh forte in that dalet. Sadiq. Sadiq. Okay? So, again, keeping in mind this attributive adjective along with the noun here have to be read as a unit. So you translate them together. A righteous son. A righteous son. Than a righteous son. So that's basically how we're gonna do this. Now, if you do the men the Marine Corps way, it's me bain with the noon assimilated as a doubling dot into the bait. So,
Wait, real quick.
yes.
In the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
you could put Cache in the beginning, right?
Yes, exactly. And this is the point, by the way, of my telling you to keep your noun and attributive adjective together as a unit in your translation and in your Hebrew sentence. You can't separate these two words, okay? They have to hang together, and this one has to go right afterwards. You couldn't stick Rasha like way over here. Bain, Cache, Rasha, right? That wouldn't say what we're trying to say. But the predicate adjective could move around, and when it does, it has to move around this whole thing as a unit, right? You can't break it up here, okay? So I could have said Cache, Bain Rasha, Me Bain, Sadiq. And that would be translated exact same way, okay?
So we know Cache is a predicate there because there is no and.
Exactly. That's a great point. If we had, let's just get rid of this part of my little circle here, and I'll get rid of the is. And if I had something like this, Bain Rasha V'Kasha, okay, then I would have to read this differently, absolutely. Then it's saying a son, a wicked and difficult. And then I'm not going to treat this as a predicate adjective, but rather as another what? Yes, another attributive adjective. And here that vowel's placement on that adjective is important because it's conjoining these two adjectives together, right? Both as attributes of the Bain here. So a wicked and difficult son. Okay. Does that make sense? Now, if you had that, the rest of this wouldn't make sense because what would you be saying?
Wicked and
Yeah, a wicked and difficult son is more than a righteous son. You'd have to be making a different sort of statement there, right? Maybe is worth more or is something, right? You've lost your predicate adjective is what I'm saying when you do that. So we would be expecting, a predicate adjective somewhere, like maybe we would say, I don't know. How about the word costly? Yakar. In the worst sense of the word, right? Yakar bein rasha v'kashe min bein, or min bein sadiq. What would that mean? More costly is a wicked and difficult son than a righteous son. Meaning, he gonna cost you a lot of money, boy. Better straighten him up.
So in the Hebrew, the normal sentence formation, if you have an adjective following your noun, only the first word that's could be an adjective is going to be attributed to that noun.
If you have an adjective immediately following a noun, it could be attributive. It doesn't have to be. The
But
issue.
it's only the first one.
No.
Unless there's an and.
Well, okay, yeah. So if I have an and, then I might have a second one, and I got to look: are these both adjectives, right? But again, if I were lacking the and, the vav, yeah, then this is going to have some different function. It won't be an attributive. In this case, yeah, I have to come up with a predicate use for it. Yes, question?
Just trying to make sure I understand the rule. If we're trying to translate a sentence that says more, we know that that's just inferred, correct?
Well, the word more is not part of the adjective. So the only way you can get it is when you have an adjective. So here's my adjective, caché, along with a preposition min. So we're looking for an adjective with a min in the universe. Okay? When you have that,
And it's inferred.
then if you translate the min as compared to, because it doesn't mean away. The preposition min has a variety of meanings. So it doesn't mean away. So when you're saying inferred, what I hear is that the word that represents the concept isn't there, and you're just inferring it. But I would say that the presence of an adjective with a comparative use of the min gives you the construction you need to not guess that you have comparison, but to know that you have comparison. Okay?
I guess what I mean by inferred is like that combination trigger for me that there needs to be some sort of quantitative comparison.
Okay, yeah. Like in other words, you're figuring it out from the way the sentence is constructed. That's what you're meaning by inferring it?
More, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I guess. I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss it later.
Mm-hmm. Right. The problem with the exercises here in Ross is that in the translations, even though he spends all this time talking about the comparative min, in the B section, I don't think there's a single comparative min in those translation exercises. And that's why I spent quite a lot more time drilling some of these extra ways of saying that someone is more this than that today, because I didn't think he gave you very much practice on it. Okay, so that was number 14. Are there any other numbers you want to go through on the A section?
I did have a quick question on 14.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me go back down there too.
Could you have cachet at the front there?
Could we have put cachet at the front? Yes, absolutely.
Yes, you could have. Right?
Yep, absolutely. That would have been perfectly fine. So instead of cachet after bein, it could have been up here. Kashay, bein rasha, mebein tzaddik. Absolutely, perfectly fine. I don't know if I mentioned this to you or not, but when you have a predicate adjective and a subject, the more common way in Hebrew to see it is to have the subject noun first, followed by the predicate adjective. Okay? When that predicate adjective is put at the front, it's usually for some point of emphasis. Maybe it's contrast or something like that.
And if you were gonna say the wicked son for that?
Oh yes, good. Let's do that. So how about not a wicked son is more difficult, but the wicked son is more difficult? Would I put an article on kashay?
No.
No, absolutely not. But I would put an article on habain and harasha. And it's, remember, it's got to, if bain is definite and it has the ha on it, then its attributive adjective has to have the ha on it. Right? It's got to follow the ha-ha rule here. So, habain harasha.
Would that mean in the second part of your sentence that the other son would have to receive an article, or can you have a definite?
Yeah, it depends on what I'm contrasting. So if my sentence is, the wicked son is more difficult than a righteous son, then I could, this could be anarthrous over here with, lacking the article. But if it were the wicked son is more difficult than the righteous son, then I have to put that article here. And it would be men habain hatzadik. And if I were doing this the Marine Corps way, I couldn't do it like this, right? Mehabain, I'd have to compensatorily lengthen that because the hey won't take a dagesh forte here. So mehabain or minhabain. Good question.
Could you remind us of the rule of why you switched from a talk to the comments on the Harashah?
Yeah. So when I want to add the article to Rasha, what I would ideally do is add a hey, pathak, doubling dot in the first consonant of the word I'm attaching it to. Right? My article comes standard with the dagesh forte in whatever that first consonant is in the noun or the adjective. Does the resh take any dagesh forte from anyone? No. It's part of the guts gang, right? Remember our guts gang. Guts gangs create problems for us. Aleph, ayin, hey, chet, and my guts wannabe is resh. And for all of these, the no dagesh forte rule applies. The other two characteristics only apply to the true blue gutturals, not the resh, but all of them, all five, follow that pattern. So when that resh rejects the dagesh, I'm going to get when the resh rejects it, I'm going to get a compensatorily lengthened pathak. Pathak is a short a, kamet is a long a. So that's compensatory lengthening. Resh, aleph, and ayin, when they reject the dagesh forte of the article, will cause compensatory lengthening before. Hey and chet, you get implied doubling or virtual doubling, and it rejects the dagesh, but the pathak doesn't lengthen. And just a case in point, I think we've got... do we have a hey call here? Oh, I think it's in the exercise. Let me go back here. Yeah. If you look at number 7 on the Hebrew translation exercises, this is what I'm thinking of right here. Notice I've got the word ha-hey call, right? the, what's a hay call? Could be temple or a palace. Okay. Ha hay call is the temple or palace. This is a situation where the article should put a doubling dot in the first consonant there, but the hay is a guttural, so it rejects it. And when it rejects it, hay and het do not compensatorily lengthen the pathak here. It just stays the short pathak. And the dagesh forte is implied. It's virtually doubling the hay, but you can't put the dagesh forte there. But it's pronounced as if it were a doubled hay. Ha, hay, hal. You can't really pronounce it doubled. You can't even hear it. But the reason it stayed a short vowel was because we're treating this syllable as if it were a closed syllable. That's why this is called virtual doubling. The guttural is virtually doubled. It's pronounced as doubled, but we can't put a dagesh forte there.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Just to close out this discussion, it's closed, it's unaccented, and the tone, because the tone is way at the back, and so closed unaccented syllables require a short vowel, okay? And that's a short vowel here, you see, because we're treating the first hay, the pathak, and then the hay of hay called as a closed syllable here. All right. Are there any other questions about either the A section or the B section on the homework here?
Dr. Marshall,
Mm-hmm.
I noticed on your homework keys, that, for example, number 1, you said the thing is rare in Israel.
Yes.
Why would it not be the word is precious in Israel?
Yeah. Well,
So in terms of translation, how do you exactly know which word to put?
well, I'm correct, and I dare you to prove me otherwise. No, I'm just kidding. Without any context, any of those translations are entirely okay. So I wouldn't count you off for that at all. I do want you to realize though that the word davar, although it most often means word, it can just refer to a thing or a matter. Okay, and so do be aware of that, because there'll be some times when it won't make good sense to translate hadavar's word. Like if a king does some evil thing before Yahweh, and the Hebrew Bible then says that hadavar rasha la'adonai, are you going to translate that as the word was evil or wicked to Yahweh, if it wasn't something the wicked king said, but what the wicked king did? There, you're going to want to translate that as the thing. The thing was evil to Yahweh, right? Not the word. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And so yakar could be translated as costly, rare. So it could be, the word was rare. And that might be the context here, as in the prophetic word was rare, or is rare. And again, when you're not specifying the copula, because that's not used in Hebrew, we're using me, Tarzan, you, Jane kind of sentences. The tense of the copula is also open to context, whether it's is or was, and without any context, we're not sure whether this should be translated as present or past.
Dr. Marshall?
Yes.
What if the word if the word precious was used instead of rare? It would change the whole meaning of that sentence. How would you know which to use?
Yeah, well, again, you would need more context. So if in the context everybody's running around looking for a prophet and someone proclaims this Hebrew sentence, Yakar hadavar b'Yisrael, then probably that means the word is rare, right? Because we can't find a prophet to give us the word of God. On the other hand, if you have Solomon saying, amass the gold and silver and let's buy more books for my library because Yakar hadavar b'Yisrael, okay? Then, I would say something like, maybe, books are very costly and he needs a lot of gold and silver to stock the library. Okay? So again, you need more context. And, when we do these little translation sentences, they're not even, at least not yet, they're not from the Bible. Ross is echoing certain things from the biblical text, but he's simplifying them greatly because you don't have a lot of grammar under your belts yet. And then some of these things are just coming out of his wild imagination. And, how can you share a mental context with somebody doing that? You have no idea what's on his mind, what he's thinking about. But when you're reading the Hebrew Bible, of course, you're going to have whole text. You're going to have books that consist of chapters, that consist of paragraphs, that consist of strings of sentences. And so you're not going to be lost on the context most of the time. Now, there are poetic passages that are sometimes difficult, but for the most part, this won't be as much of a struggle as you think. Okay? If you were to, just to make you maybe not feel so bad about this, if you were to take any newspaper article for your favorite newspaper or weekly periodical, whatever it is, I don't know. I'd imagine it's probably not for you guys, Newsweek or Time. Maybe World Magazine or, I don't know, Table Talk, R.C. Sproul, I don't know. Whatever it is, there's going to be a ton of words that are used that have a variety of meanings that are possible. And if you look them up in a dictionary, there might be 5, 6, 7 different definitions for the same word. But when you read an article in World Magazine, how many times do you have to stop and think about what that word means? Or how many times do you have to go to the dictionary to say, I'm not sure what that word means here. I guess I better look it up and see what the other possible meanings are. You don't have that problem when you're an English speaker for two reasons. You know the uses of a word because you've used them in your own speech. But of course, you're not the one speaking when you're reading someone's article, right? They're doing all the talking. But when you start the article, they're leading you along a path, and they're giving you all the contextual cues you need to read it, and in most instances, to let your eyes read it one time. And sometimes you don't even read every single word, but you are processing the entire grammar of that sentence and its meaning without even thinking about it. Okay? Because the context is so thick between you and the writer as you're reading that article. You know what the topic of the article is. You probably know where the writer's coming from. It's addressing contemporary issues in your own life and your politics or whatever. I mean, there's just no contextual gaps anywhere. And so you have no problem processing it. Here, we've got all kinds of gaps, don't we? And that's why this is a bit more difficult. So be of good cheer when you're reading a whole Bible text. You're not going to have that kind of problem. Okay? It's usually only going to have one possible meaning in that context amidst the variety of meanings that it could have in any theoretical context. Okay? All right. You're speechless. That must mean you're happy. All right. Are there any questions about the B section? Let's move on to B. To be or not to be? You guys all happy with your performance on this? I don't hear a resounding yes. Are you afraid to say no?
Yes. If you could go over to number 7, please.
Number 7?
Yeah.
Sure. Let's take a look at number 7. All right. So, we have halahu, which is what? A noun, adjective, or verb? Yeah, that's a verb, right? So, what does it mean? They walked or they went? Okay. And that's the English gloss that Ross gives you, right? They walked or went. Now, which is better? Well, both, right? Either of these are going to work perfectly well here. We're going to use the pronoun they if we don't have an overt, explicit subject noun. Since I know that the implied subject of this verb is a they, I'm looking for a plural subject if I can find one. Is there anything plural in the context here that might make a good subject for me? Yeah, hagiborim is definitely a good option here. Why? Because I've got im on the end of it, and that tells me it's what number? Yeah, it's plural. And in fact, it's masculine plural, isn't it? So, good candidate for being the subject. And if that's true, I'm not going to use they. I'm going to use the explicit noun as my subject. So how would I translate just halahu hagiborim? The warriors walked. We'll go with this first word so that we're not all on different pages there. So the warriors walked. Now, look at what comes after this noun. Ha-rishaim. Huh. Do you see a ha-ha pattern here? Ah. Is the second thing that the ha's attached to an adjective? Yes. So giborim's a noun. Rishaim's an adjective. This is a great candidate for what kind of an adjective? Attributive. And this is going to tell me what kind of the warriors I'm talking about, right? And I want to, remember, I want to translate my noun and its attributive adjective together. In other words, I wouldn't want to translate the subject first, hagiborim, and then halahu, walked, and then try to muscle in ha-rishaim. That wouldn't work very well, would it? The warriors walked wicked. That would sound like what I'm saying is that the warriors walked wickedly, wouldn't it? But that's not what this is. This adjective is not modifying the walked. It's modifying the noun. It's telling me what kind of warriors, not what kind of walking happened. Okay? So keep your attributive adjective with your noun. So how am I going to translate halahu hagiborim ha-rishaim? Exactly. The wicked warriors walked. The wicked warriors walked. And now I have a prepositional phrase that begins with L, and this tells me where they walked. What does L mean? To or toward, right? So good. And now I have two things, ha-hekal, ha-gadol. And are you detecting a ha-ha pattern here? Yeah. Is the first one a noun? Yeah. Is the second one an adjective? Yes. Then what kind of adjective am I possibly looking at? Attributive. That's right. And do they agree in gender and number as well as definiteness? Yes, they do. My ending is 0 for both, which tells me it's what gender and number? Masculine singular, that's right. So this is telling me what kind of temple or palace, right? So where did they walk? To what? The great palace, or the big palace, or the big temple. Something like that. All right. I'm not sure who asked for number 7, but does that clear up things for you?
In your answer, you said, oh no, never mind. Yes, exactly. That's exactly correct.
All right, good.
Never mind.
Dr. Marshall?
Yes.
Dr. Marshall? Forgive me, but I'm still a little confused. That's why I didn't respond earlier on number 1 between precious and rare. I would have understood that precious, costly, and rare, generally speaking, would always mean something good. And is that generally true when you get 3 definitions or 3 different meanings of a word? Or could they end up in reality meaning something just the opposite? Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, it is possible for a word to develop both positive and negative connotations. Yes, that is possible. Just to use the preposition L that we see in number 7, for example. Here, the L means motion towards some place, right? They walked to or toward a place. I could also talk about giving something, L, someone, right? And there it's indicating the recipient. And, that recipient could be, the recipient of some positive gift. So I gave him, a present, or I sent a present to him. But I could also use this in a negative context where I could talk about setting up maybe an encampment, L, ha'ir. And there it would have what's called an adversative sense, which is not positive at all. It's to the detriment of the object of the preposition. Okay? So for the most part, you have a word, it develops these related meanings, and frequently, they might kind of track with one another as being, of a more positive association or not. But you can't always assume that. You have to just learn the words and their meanings in context, in actual uses. Now, what will blow your mind is that in the book of Job, you know how Job will offer sacrifices for his children, right? Unbeknownst to them, he will make sacrifices for them, and he will say that the text says that he does this lest they have done what in their hearts against God? The expression is lest they've cursed God in their hearts. Okay? What's interesting about the Hebrew text there in Job, when he makes mention of this, is it actually uses the Hebrew word that we always translate as blessed. So he makes sacrifices for them lest they have blessed God. Now, why does anybody need sacrifices made for them if they're blessing God? They don't. Okay? So in that particular context, the word blessed here seems to be being used in a negative sense as a kind of euphemism for cursing, where if you read between the lines, as it were, what the author's doing is he's not wanting to associate the word curse with God in the same sentence, so he uses the word bless. Right? Now, do we do this in English? Absolutely. Somebody does a really awesome skateboard trick, we might go, man, that was wicked. What have we done? We've used a term that's usually reserved for negative things, and we use it in a positive way. Now, that may drive you crazy, but kids do this all the time, and then it just sort of catches on. Back when I was in grad school, the word fat, spelled this way, was used to talk about things that were really cool. Does anybody remember this? Man, that was just fat. Okay? Of course. We don't usually try to flatter, people when we call them fat, right? But when things are fat, that's cool. That's awesome. So, and then even the blessed thing. If, my boss is being mean to me, and I come home and I'm all sad, and, she says, "What's wrong?" I can say, "Well, boy, my boss really blessed me today." I don't mean something positive by that, right? I'm being ironic. So anyhow, there's these contextual uses that, you just have to pay attention to the context and what's being said to really read well.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Other questions on these exercises here? Okay. If you don't have questions, I have a couple for you. Is that okay? Can I raise a couple with you real quickly, and we'll take a break? Just to help you see some of the things that we need to see here in terms of identifying these adjectives and their uses. Back to number 1. Okay, so number 1, yakar hadavar. Is yakar a noun or an adjective? Adjective. Hadavar, noun or adjective? Noun. So, does yakar match the gender and number of davar? Yes. They are both masculine singular. Do they match definiteness? No. Can this adjective be an attributive a predicate, or excuse me, an attributive adjective? No. For 2 reasons. It doesn't follow the ha-ha rule, and it doesn't go where? After the noun. Exactly. So I have to take this adjective as functioning predicatively, right? And so how do I translate this? It's not what kind of word, but what the word is. The word is yakar. The word is rare, costly. Okay? Now, let me just switch this up. What if instead of yakar hadavar, I had hadavar ha yakar b'Yisrael? Now how would you have to analyze that? Okay, so this would have to be attributive because it's going after the noun and it agrees in gender, number, and definiteness. So what's the assertion that's being made then? The rare word, what? It's not a full sentence unless you give me a verb. So what do you have to add here? Yeah, the rare word is or was in Israel. Okay? You see, once I drop this predicate adjective over here, I'm not making an assertion about what the word is in terms of saying it's rare. I'm now talking about the rare word. So now I need to know, well, what are you saying about the rare word? Well, my assertion is now that I want to make an assertion about where the rare word is. Okay? So my predicate becomes the prepositional phrase. The rare word is in Israel. Okay? So just keep in mind, when you have a predicate adjective, that's what your subject is. If you determine that you don't have a predicate adjective, and you don't have a verb either, then you need to figure out, well, what am I saying the subject is? You got to find something else that it must be, because this adjective can't be a predicate adjective. That can't be what the subject is, because that's telling you something already about what kind of subject we're going to make a statement about. You see. All right. Any questions about that? Look at number 2. We have a faux ha'avadim hatovim. Do you detect the ha-ha pattern here? We do have 2 words that have ha's attached. Is the first one a noun or an adjective? Ha'avadim.
No.
Noun. Is tovim a noun or an adjective? Adjective. That's right. Do they match gender and number? What does im tell you? Yeah, they're both masculine plural. So I have ha-ha, definiteness, and im. So this is what kind of adjective? Attributive. And it's telling me what kind of avadim. By the way, what does avadim mean? Servants, slaves. Ha-avadim is the servants, and ha-avadim hatovim is the good servants. And put it with a faux, and what do you got? Yeah, where are the good servants? A faux, remember, is an interrogative word. Where's the word are? It's not in Hebrew, right? Me, Tarzan, you, Jane, we're the good servants. Now, look at number 4. Ha-sefarim, ha-ikarim. Do we have a ha-ha pattern?
Yes.
We do. Do we have an im pattern where they match gender number? Yeah. And is this a noun followed by an adjective?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Then this makes a great attributive adjective. How will I translate ha-sefarim, ha-ikarim?
The books are in the temple.
What kind of books are in the temple?
Precious.
The precious books, or the costly books, are in the temple. Why would you not say are in a temple? Because I don't have the article hey here, do I?
Preposition that had a hate sandwich.
Oh, that's right. Very good. The preposition bet swallows hay sandwiches. Otherwise, what would I expect under the bet if there were no article hiding in here? Shiva, that's right. Bet comes standard with a vocal shiva. That's what I should see unless something's gone awry. And so it's a rye hay sandwich. That was a joke. You're supposed to laugh. All of you are going to get F's today. Okay. So yes, something's gone awry. The hay has been swallowed. Okay, good. Number 5. Ha nevi'im ha yisharim. Do we have a ha-ha pattern here? Yes. You see how this works? Is this sticking in your thick skulls? You know, Luther said I had to beat justification by faith into the heads of my congregation. And I have to beat attributive adjectives and predicate adjectives into you as well. So what kind of prophets are these? Upright. So translate ha-nevi'im ha-yisharim. The upright prophets. Not the prophets are upright. If it were the prophets are upright, what would have to go away?
The article.
That's right. The article on prophets or upright? Upright, exactly. So it would just be ha-nevi'im yisharim. Okay, they agree in gender and number, but not definiteness. The prophets are upright. Now, by the way, before I did this, and this really was an attributive adjective, what was the assertion being made about the upright prophets? Yeah, that they're in the big house, right? In other words, the assertion being made about the subject, the upright prophets, is where they are, right? What location they're in, because I have a bet preposition here. But if I omit the article, as I've done, and turn Yesharim into a predicate adjective, then is where they are the thing I'm saying about the subject?
No.
No. The point of a predicate adjective is that the predicate adjective is what I'm saying the subject is. Okay? Where they are is not the assertion. It's what they are. What quality they have when there's a predicate adjective. So what am I affirming about the prophets? The prophets are upright. And then this prepositional phrase, yes, it does happen to tell me where that's true, but their location is not the point. That's not what I'm asserting about them. I'm not asserting where they are. I'm asserting what they are. That's right. Yes. Yes. John over here says they would be in the big house if here if they were upright. Yeah. Okay. So, are there any final questions here? Do you feel like you're getting it?
Yes.
All right. Good. Do you know more than you did when you walked in this morning? Okay. Good. Well, that's my goal. That's my goal. So then we've had a successful hour and 45 minutes of reviewing and drilling. Okay, good.